us his. I'll just hand over to Mr. Williams to give us his opening remarks or his presentation that he has prepared for us today. Mr. Williams.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
It's nice to be here, and I want to say thank you so much to the organizers for the opportunity to be here to say a few things about father and son relationship and how best we can handle it to make sure that we are raising sons that will be able to fit into the future and also be able to stand their ground, doing the right thing each time. So I would like to begin by saying that things have changed. And as much as things have changed, parents should also change the way they bring up children, especially the boy child. Sometimes the tradition that the parents have passed on to our generation of men is kind of reflecting in the things that we do, in some things that we do, in terms of the way we talk to kids, in terms of the way we want to bring them up, especially the ones that, for instance, men that have younger ones that saw their parents beat their younger ones, shout at their younger ones, scold them, call them names, use abusive words and all that. They kind of toe that line. And it's easier for them because that's what they have seen. People learn by observation. And in our age, it's difficult for people to just sit down and read books about parenting, which is where the missing link is. Parents just find themselves in the role of being a father. Most fathers don't even read things about bringing up a child in this 21st century. What has changed? What are the things that you shouldn't do? What are the things that you should do to make sure that your child is brought up the right way? And as a result, there's been issues in the society, issues of insecurity, issues of rape, issues of financial crimes, frauds, and all that, especially in Nigeria, where you find the Yahoo boy is celebrated because of the kind of car that he uses. And then a lot of things have changed, and parents are kind of not playing the role, especially men at home are kind of not playing the role they should play because of lack of knowledge. Number one, if you remember, the scripture says the people perish for lack of knowledge. Parents, fathers who don't read, who don't give attention to studying the things that they should be doing in terms of bringing up a child, miss the mark because they bring in their upbringing into the circumstance to try to beat their child into doing some of the things that they want them to do. But they don't give attention to the fact that times have changed. For instance, during the period I was growing up, you can hardly find someone who is doing fraud. I'm talking about 40 years ago, or let me say like 35 years ago. You can hardly find someone who is doing fraud. People want to work with their hands and then be happy. They want to brag with what they can do by themselves. But these days, a lot has changed. One of them being that you find a young boy of some time ago, I heard a boy saying, when I grow up, I want to be a Yahoo boy, for instance. And that's because the boy has seen that people who are called Yahoo boys have nice cars. They live flamboyant lives. So he wants to be like that. And then if he's being brought up by parents who really don't care how their children make money, I've seen some parents like that. They don't care. Their most concern is that the child is bringing something home. If the child can lie and say, I am just working online, that's the in thing. The parents doesn't go further to, the father, for instance, won't go further to say, let me see what you do online. What kind of company has employed you and all that. But they just fit in, allow the boy to just do his thing. And that becomes a problem because the truth is, it is going to create a very big trouble in future for Nigeria, being that our political atmosphere, for instance, if we depend on democracy to continue to run the nation. Our political atmosphere is going to be more skewed to people who have done fraudulent things to raise money to be able to run political campaigns. People who have gotten money in one fraudulent way or the other are the ones who can just throw out, for instance, 20-something million naira at this time to buy a governorship form. Somebody who earns salary, who does some kind of legitimate job, can't actually bring out that kind of money. That is not even the only money that you spend. So you find that people who have done these fraudulent things are the ones that will find their way into the government. And you know what that means, more looting. So it becomes an issue for fathers to actually look deep down, do some kind of research and look at the way they are bringing up children. Is it the right way for the century that we are in? Can't these children be empowered at a tender age to be able to raise money by themselves, be financially independent before they even become maybe 15? I've seen children who are doing extremely well on YouTube, on different social networks. They are doing extremely well, raising money by what they do. Can't parents just find something unique about a child as the child is growing up and begin to build around it? Let the child begin to master this thing from childhood. For instance, I have a boy. I've noticed that my boy, each time he finds a ball, instead of kicking, he likes to throw. And then when we gave birth to him, I could remember one of the nurses said, this boy will be very tall. So I'm already beginning to channel his energy towards basketball. Each time I find an opportunity, I place an object and I say, throw that ball into that object. Move back, throw again, move back, throw again, target it, throw from this side, bounce the ball. I kind of create that mindset for him to begin to see that, okay, there is a skill that is required for me to be able to throw these balls very well. And since he likes throwing, I should help him to channel the energy right. So if parents will begin to look at innate abilities, every child is born with something. Actually, when you look at the parable of the talent, it actually talks about, you can also say it talks about talents, individual talents. For everyone, there is actually at least one talent. Some have multiple. Like me, I have multiple talents. I can play a musical instrument. I can play football. I can jump. I can sing. So there's a lot that is in everyone. It's just for the parents to dig deep and find them. But if we leave these children, if you don't teach them, remember that your child has access to the internet. Sometimes I drag my phone with my boy because the truth is, if a father spends time on the phone, the children are observing. They will begin to feel like there's something in that phone that the parents are actually looking at or seeing that kind of keeps them going. So they begin to tilt towards using some of these gadgets. And the truth is, these gadgets are actually made for them. If I remember very well, Instagram, for instance, was established for children before adults hijacked it, and then it became something for adults. So if you consider the fact that these children, if you don't teach them these things that you need to teach them, they will learn it from somewhere, somehow, some children will definitely learn something that the parents are not teaching them. But it pays to actually teach them the things that you need to teach them and bring them up in the way that they should go when they are young, so that they won't depart from it when they are old. It's very, very important for us to have a peaceful environment, a peaceful nation in future. You can imagine not. Lack of education. I could remember I was in Borno, especially the period that Boko Haram issues were very, very high. I visited Borno to just do some reports. I actually know why the issue in Borno is there, or Boko Haram issue is there. And the basic thing is that they are deprived of education. The educated mind is able to critically reason and say, can I stake my life for this? All these years that have been invested in me, can I stake it for this? But those people, they lack the basic knowledge. And people who have been able to convince them to carry arms are the ones that are making them do what they do. So it's very important for parents to give time to training their children and raising them the right way by teaching them. First, the parent had to learn what to teach the child and then teach them exactly the same thing. I rest my case. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Williams. You just gave us a very, very brief introduction, peripheral introduction into today's conversation. I think I need to turn on my video, right? I don't know if I'm being seen. Okay. So you gave us a peripheral introduction into today's conversation, and we're going to go quickly, because time is not a friend right now, into today's real panel conversation. Mrs. Uloma, are we together?
I'm right here. Hi, everybody.
Amazing.
Yes,
Thank you so much for coming on. So today is a special day, like I keep saying. It's the last episode for this season. I'm excited to do something different, have two people come on, and I will, yes, I can see you. And I will, it's going to be like a panel conversation. So quickly, my first question will go to you, Mrs. Uloma. How did we get here? And when I say here, I mean this seeming imbalance between the attention given to both genders. How did we get here? We all know the background story, given the caption that advertised this episode today. So how did we get here? What do you think?
Okay, good evening, everybody, wherever you are in the world. And it's a pleasure to be here. I'm one of those people that got into what we're discussing today totally by accident, even though nobody believes me. Everybody thinks, because you had 3 sons, that's why you're passionate about boys, and things like that, but it was really not about that. I just woke up to the realization that you just described, that a lot of attention is being given to the girls. And a lot of attention has been given to the girls for a long time now. And I just stopped and I asked myself, who is looking after the boys? Now, there's absolutely nothing wrong with, a world recognizing that there are things that are working against a particular gender, and therefore they have to be supported, they have to be, given some extra attention and so on and so forth. Absolutely nothing wrong with it. But my fear was, at what point are we going to tip this balance so that we are totally neglecting the boys? And from even the introduction that Williams has given today, you can see that he has already started stating some of the things that have therefore started happening as a result of this neglect. You have boys that are angrier, you have boys that are, that have a lot more time in their hands. You have boys that are not, being attended to even at home, because everybody expects that they know how to take care of themselves because they are boys. And all those things now lead to, people who we are now looking at them and saying, oh dear, how did we get here? Which is the question that you're asking. So I think it was a very good intention that I think, is going bad. It hasn't gone bad, but it's going bad. It's good attention to, support the people that are indeed in need of certain new and added privileges. But it was also important to stop and say, what does that mean to balance? What does that mean to the natural course of life? What does that mean to roles and natural roles and so on? Because those are the types of things that I have a problem with. I want to say here that in terms of introduction, clearly I'm a girl, so I can't be against girls. That doesn't happen, right? But I don't ever like to discuss issues of feminism because I am not a feminist. I am certainly not a feminist. I love feminism because I think it's a very powerful thing for women, but I am not a feminist. So let's just put that down. And then let's now begin to ask ourselves, what does that mean, therefore? It means that there are some traditional roles that women have and some traditional roles that men have. That is the way it is. That is what balance is. And anything that starts off taking things off its course is dangerous because you don't know where it will end. Whenever you start taking any issue, any situation off its course, either by adding new roles to, to people that shouldn't have those roles, or, removing the roles of certain people just because, you can see something that you're responding to on the short term, somewhere in the long term, it's going to come back and hurt you. It's going to come back and bite you. And that's what I'm scared of. So my whole ideology is really about balance. It's about trying at every point in time to still maintain that balance that is necessary in our humanity.
Okay. balance. And that is, I think, the core of everything, really. Human beings try to upset nature's balance by either paying much attention to one thing and neglecting the other. And that's how we've come about today's situation of the seeming neglect to the boy child. Someone said something interesting, pre-show comments, some of the interesting pre-show comments I usually get. And she said, and I think a lot of people share the same sentiment. We are raising very independent, powerful girls to become women, who have now even become women, to go to whose house? To get married to who? The boys been neglected. That's what she said. That's how she put it. So very interesting conversation, calling for balance. But I wouldn't let you go until you, I think, further expand on what she said. What's the difference between feminist and feminism? Indulge me, please.
I was worried you were going to go down that route because it's whenever I talk about not being a feminist, it's like putting myself in a firing squad. And,
that's a very controversial thing. So in just a very simple sentence.
In a very simple sentence, I'll talk about what feminism is. It's a departure, okay? It's a departure. And like I established earlier, whenever there is a departure from what is normal and what is balanced and what was given to us as life, we never quite know where it will take us to. And the usual thing with everything that has, shifted, the landmarks, as it were, is that it just becomes something that you can't even, it becomes a hydra-headed monster. And then you want to pull it back and you can't. I mean, we have feminist movements all over the world now that are affecting everything. I can go on and on, but I don't think I want us to veer into that discussion. But my important point, and I think everybody here can relate to it, is that when you say that you are a feminist, what you're saying is, first of all, I'm fighting. I'm a fighter. I'm here to fight something, right? And I'm here to fight for something. I'm here to fight, and all that. And I'm like, why? Why do we need to fight? So my response is being feminine, which is no fighting, right? You just be the best woman you can be. Use everything that you have within your even physical, constitution to be the best woman you can be. That man that you want to become, you can actually have everything that he has by just being a woman. And there's a story I told in one of my training classes once. And when I started talking, all the women in the room were upset with me because I said I wasn't a feminist. But at the end of the day, I used the analogy of a head and a neck to explain what I mean. So the man is the head. Who is the neck in the family? And who turns the head? So we have power that we don't even understand that we have. And I think that the more, I'm being very general, I'm sure you know, because there's no time for this discussion, but that is really the difference. The difference is that it is already given to us to be the stronger. I'm not talking about physically stronger, but the truth is that the woman is actually the stronger in this world that we live in. But we just need to understand it and play it, that's all.
Thank you for that clarification, because I know a lot of people were dying to know what does she mean? What does she mean? So I had to ask on their behalf. even though I understand. So awesome. And moving on to Mr. Williams. Mr. Williams is his own angle is coming from the father-son relationship. I would like to say, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Williams, that the father-son relationship seems to be the foundation of a great boy becoming a man. Am I right, Mr. Williams?
Absolutely, you're correct.
Absolutely. Okay.
Yes.
So my question then would be, oh, sorry. Yeah, go on if you want to say something.
The thing is, there's a replication that is required for a man to come out of the boy. Yeah, and it's the father that is going to actually bring this replication out. You find that where we have issues with the boy child not being able to do what is expected of the boy child, you find that the father is not able to pass on the baton, so to say, like where you have issues of rascality to a very large extent. If you look deep down, you find that that rascality sort of is either in the father, or the father has not been able to identify that this boy is towing a wrong line or wrong lane to be able to correct the child and then bring the child to the right path. So that is where you find that in such situations, you begin to notice that there is a gap between the relationship that is supposed to exist between the man and the boy. There is a gap. For instance, where if a father concentrates so much on making money and not giving attention to how the boy child is being part of the home chores, that is where you find the imbalance that she talked about, the house chores. You find that some parents don't even, some men they don't feel like a boy should be part of house chores. You know, that is a woman kind of job. But where the man doesn't actually give the boy that room or explain to the boy child the essence, you find that the boy begins to behave differently about chores because the father doesn't even approve of it.
Right.
So that
brings me to my question, Mr. Williams. Sorry to cut you because we have to manage time. That brings me to my question, which I intended to ask initially. A very good father-son relationship is great for building that boy to a responsible man.
Yes.
In the case where we've had a failed father-son relationship, and there are many instances of failed father-son, so either absent fathers, negligent fathers, ignorant fathers, but in all, it boils down to no father-son relationship. What is the hope for such a boy transitioning to a man, or such a boy child, and how can first of all, how can the relationship be remedied? And what can such a boy child do in case the relationship is irredeemable or irreparable? And I'm talking now about good role models or mentors. Speak about that for a moment.
Okay, so the first thing is the need for a change. For instance, in broken homes, you find that sometimes a boy that doesn't have a father, there are some things that you would find lacking. In a home where there is a father and the father is not giving attention as he should to the boy child, you will find that there are also some things lacking. The first thing that should be done is the man having to agree first that there is an issue that he needs to resolve here. And then he has to look at himself first. Before he begins to look at the boy child, he has to look at himself. Is there something that I am doing that is not right, that this boy is emulating? Is it like I'm not giving so much attention where I should give attention? So if he finds that there is something he's not doing well, he has to first begin to unlearn the things that he had learned, and then learn the new things. If you want a boy that would make peace, you as a father should first teach or show how to make peace to the child. But if this is, you are in a home, the father beats up the mother, even in the presence of the boy, you are just raising a boy who will become a woman beater. That's just the truth. Because he would find that there is nothing wrong, nothing at all wrong with a man beating a boy. But if the man knows that this is not a good trait, this is not something that to first treat himself before he can now say, okay, because these children, the truth is, before a child becomes an adult, everything he has or knows most likely are from the parents, because they are the people he spends more time with. But if the father is not doing what he should be doing, you find that the boy will just learn those things just naturally, and then it becomes part of his life. So it's important that the man would first have to look at himself inward, find out the things that he should be doing that he's not doing right, and then change. By changing, his attitude and outward character would show that, yes, there is a change. And the boy would also, it's like a mirror. You come before a mirror. If you didn't wear makeup before you come to the mirror, you will see your face the way you are. If you go and wear makeup and return, the face will have makeup. It's like a mirror that you're transferring your attitude to the boy. Once you begin to do the unlearning and learning, you will also find that your child begins to adjust. So the most important thing is for the man to first change his attitude.
And then in the case of absent fathers, what then happens?
Okay, now, in that case, the duty now falls on the mother so much, because she has to now play the role of a father and a mother to the child. Now, it therefore depends on, for the woman to be able to make a reasonable impact or change in the life of the child, she has to also have the traits that she wants to put in the child. The traits that she wants to put in the child in terms of how a man should behave. If the woman lacks that, it means she has to, one, either look for a means to expose the child to such upbringing by way of learning, by way of reading. There are books. If you can't read those books, try as much as possible to make the child read those books. And then tell the child that this is what should be. You don't have a father role. It is not an issue. What if the dad died early, for instance? And then, yes, and there's no man. It doesn't mean that the boy would become wayward. He wouldn't have what it takes to be a man. So there are books that have been written about how a man should be, how to train a man. The mom can get those books and give to the child to read. If the child can't read, she can even begin to read these books to the child, even as the child is growing up. Get the book, sit the boy down, read the book to the child. By reading that, the boy begins to learn from what you're telling the child or what you're reading to the child. So, very large extent, the mother can also achieve what the father can achieve if, or peradventure, there is no father in the house. The mom can just apply some principles and be able to just take care of the gap.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Williams. And just a reminder to every single person here, 38 of us, Parent Connect is always a conversation. So your questions, your comments, your opinions are always welcome. We've gotten into that session now. So if you have any question, the chat box is there for us to communicate. But if you want to speak, I think the administrator has told us how to do that. If you want to contribute, you could just signify. There's an icon below, depends on if you're using your phone or your laptop. There's an icon below that shows the hand symbol. You could just raise that up and it would allow you to contribute. We're all learning here. This is a learning space, and yes, we're all here to learn. So if you have any comments, contributions, please, they are welcome. We are looking forward to that. This is our final session, so let's make it as exciting as possible. Now, moving on to my other question, and this will be for Mrs. Uloma. Mrs. Uloma, who is more responsible for raising boys to become responsible men? The onus, does it lie on the father or the mother? who is more responsible? Who should we hold more responsible for raising responsible boys to become men in a situation now where we have both parents?
Is this a trick question? Okay, because I think there's a reason why there are two in the whole parenting thing. It's because something comes from the father and something comes from the mother. And both together, therefore, form the whole that is supposed to give us all the wholesomeness that the child should therefore grow with. So it's really a bit of both. But I know exactly what you're saying. So let me try and address it. Ideally, the man should be the one raising his son. And I say ideally because we're assuming that he is an ideal man in the first place. We're assuming that he's an ideal father. And therefore, what he is what he wants his son to be. And what he wants his son to be is good because we have assumed that he is ideal, right? Now let's pack that. And then there is the woman, who is there to make sure that every other thing, the sensitivity part of a child, like the part of, a child being beyond just what he does, but, also what he feels, all the emotions, all the lighter stuff, if you want to call it that, all that is something that would naturally be something that comes from the woman. And when it doesn't, and again, it's assuming that a woman is ideal also, that she understands sensitivity, she understands the place of sensitivity and so on. She's not the type of woman that even shouts at the boy more that you are a boy, you cannot be crying, you can't cry, you cannot, what is that? Go back and beat that child. If that's the person that she is, then she has also not therefore followed a traditional role. So I wanted to add something to what William said, because what William stands for is something that is also very dear in my heart, this whole father-son relationship. And it's because of the role, the father is what we call God. It's not because it's just a word. It's because he is our father. When, as a father, you are not God-like to your son, to your child, to your children, then they have missed an opportunity to understand what God is like. It's a huge responsibility. Fatherhood is not just that you got somebody pregnant. It's really that you are that, personified God in the existence of people. And that is what, when they pray to the Father, they recognize what they are talking about. They're not talking about an away father. They're not talking about an abusive father. They're talking about a father that raised them well, that was a good role model, that had examples that they will continue to follow and so on. So it's a very sensitive and very important, aspect that I just wanted to add to what William said. Traditionally, in direct response to your question, the man should be very interested in making sure that he's raising a son that is balanced. The challenge that we have, I call that a challenge, but most people, fight me also when I talk about it. The challenge that we have is this whole money thing. Money, 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 money. And that's what we inculcate in the heads of our sons. That if you don't have money, you don't have life. You're not a person. It's money that defines you. It's money, 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 money. And that is what keeps the fathers away, because they're chasing money, 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 money. They are not bringing the child up because, if you're not doing something that is bringing you cash, then nobody has any respect for you, even the father said, and so that's another thing that has totally twisted, the way humanity is developing. So I think that, for me, it's really, first of all, to ensure that as best as possible, that we have ideal men, who can actually be full role models, that the child can look onto and get all the examples they need, spiritually, physically, psychologically, mentally, competitively, everything. They should be able to just get it, and it's from your being interested in the first place in their well-being, and you yourself also recognizing that that you are the example, that they have. So that's what I think. But I think it's also very important for the woman to be able to just do the part of adding the sensitivity, making them realize that, yes, you are stronger than the girl, but that doesn't make you able to beat her up. You are stronger so that you will protect her. Those are the type of words they should hear from the mother. They should begin to see things like, yes, the feminists say that you should not open the door for them. Please go ahead and open the door. If they don't want to walk through it, they can walk under it. The chivalry is still good. Things like that. That's what the woman reinforces. Those are the types of things that is the job of the woman to reinforce, so that they stay sensitive. They stay, human. They stay human. And they're not totally on the other side where it's all about cash and whatever else, they talk about these days.
Thank you so much. And we have a comment here. I'll take that before I go. And it says, the father is the father and should be godlike in manners. I like that point. Thank you. Indeed, I was going to comment on that. Thank you very much for that comment. Who made that comment? Mbechi. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Mbechi's talked about your point about saying the father is the father and how it relates to the relationship with Christ. And that is very important. You might not know how that important that is, because I had a friend who were in the same fellowship together at some point in uni, and she said something striking, that when people say, oh, our father, God is our father, she can't really relate to that. She doesn't feel love through that statement, because to her, fatherhood is not something of love. So when people are saying, oh, God is my father, to her, she doesn't connect with that statement. She doesn't feel love by saying, oh, God is my father. Instead, she can say something else, oh, how great they are, but not my father, because fatherhood to her was not a pleasant journey. So her father has defined fatherhood in a particular dimension, and she doesn't want to relate, she doesn't want to see God in that way, right? So that's a very cogent reason, a point that you made. I just wanted to point that out, yes. Okay. So men, ideal men today are actually figureheads who should show the replication of Christ, as it were, in the homes. So moving on, this is for both you and Williams. Moving on, we've talked about ideal men, because ideal men raise ideal boys, responsible boys. It's a cycle, right? It's a cycle. But if we're going to be honest with ourselves, it seems like there's a near total breakdown in society today. So how can we then repair that? Truth be told, I don't want to throw any shades, but I don't think that we have enough ideal role models in terms of men for today, in today's time. So how can we then replicate raising ideal boys, seeing that there's a lack or a seeming lack, not a total lack, but the number of ideal men or role models are really low in numbers. So this is open for you, Mrs. Uloma and Williams. How can we move forward? Moving on, what are the solutions? What do you think can be done?
Okay, I think conversations like this are important. So Akalechi, very well done to you. I think it's important to, wherever you are, be that person who advocates, for the boys, advocates for what we're discussing here today, advocate for balance, advocate for the fact that, better boys means a better society in the future. Just be that voice, because it's always nice to be able to do a 10-point plan, the 4 Ps of getting boys to another level and all, all those things are nice and consultant sounding and all that. But the truth is that in the simple relationships that we have, in the simple circles that we are a part of, in our families, with our friends, there are conversations that come up. And even if they don't come up, bring them up, and let people just hear, because like you rightly pointed out, I mean, I just talked about this one about fatherhood and God. and you referred to your friend, you know, there are so many such people who need to hear the types of things that we're talking about, that fatherhood doesn't have to be a bad thing. You know, and we express that to them. We talk about the ideals. We play down the things that we should play down. You know, this focus, it is good to be rich, but it's not the only thing about life. It's not, you know, and people need to just get to that point where they can begin to still feel confident, even when they don't have money in their pockets. You know, because the society is saying, if you don't have money in your pocket, you don't have a voice. And I don't think so. I have very close and very personal relationships, family and otherwise, that were strong men because of the values they had and what they stood for. Nothing to do with cash. And I'm talking about not just because of me, those are the same, that's the testimony they had with everybody. So there is something else that is not money, that is still, you know, and it's called, you know, it's values, it's integrity. It's being able to stand and nobody can point and throw, you know, stuff at you and say, isn't it this one that did this at that time, at that time? You know, integrity is the watchword. It's the thing that is the compass, it's the moral compass, and people need to just hear more of it. And people need to believe it, you know, because we don't say enough about that anymore. You don't hear things like that anymore. Like Williams pointed out in his intro, you know, it's really about the chieftaincy titles you get. Why do you get a chieftaincy title? Not because of your integrity anymore. It's because of how much you have. And all the other recognitions, you know, it's really always about, you know, how much you have. And we need to just start making that change in the little circles that we influence, so that people can become a lot more confident about being people of integrity. There's nothing wrong with not being able to fly a private jet. You don't have to. Isn't everybody has to fly private jets in this world? You know, so let's just do the one that God gives us. And contentment is really the answer to that. So for me, it's integrity and contentment as a conversation that should, you know, become viral, you know, in every place that we find ourselves in.
Thank you. Williams, do you have anything to say before we go to the comments? I see our chat section buzzing.
Yes, just a few things. I think platforms like churches, for instance, churches, gatherings, should begin to look at talking to people more about the ideals, what a man should be, you know, what are the right things that you should be doing. If somebody says bend the rule, you should not go that way, you know. You should stand by what is right. I can still remember a scripture that says, for I know Abraham, that he will teach his children the right way to walk, you know. That was God giving testimony about a human. It means a lot. It means this person has been able to walk at least right. And these things are not difficult. It is a personal decision that an individual has to make. Let me just do the things that are right. It starts from the way you respond to traffic lights. It starts from the way you stop to make the person that got to a traffic junction before you to pass, and not just trying to just force yourself onto the road and then block the road. It starts from small things like that. Attitude. How much of the right things about life have you been able to do as a man? How do you talk to people? You know, how do you relate with people? Do you first of all consider everyone's happiness before yours, or you are just selfish? You know, that's one of the problems that we have in terms of leadership in Nigeria. I was somewhere sometime and somebody said, what do you think is the problem of Nigeria? The person said government. I said, no, not government. It's the individual. It's the individual. How much of your mind have you pushed from the things that you know are wrong and you still want to do them? You know, it starts by personal decision to just do the right thing. Do the right thing. It's not a difficult thing. We all know. The truth is, the conscience that we have makes it possible for us to know what is right and what is wrong naturally. It is difficult for you to find a criminal that doesn't know that what he's doing is crime. So because you know, all you just need to do is do the right thing. You know them, do the right thing. And then the children that you're giving birth to will learn from it. What Abraham just did was do the right thing. And all these children, if you look at all of them, they followed that path. It's that simple. If parents would just do the right things and then emphasizing on these things in places of worship, wherever people gather, let it be a subject of discussion. Like she said, let it just be a subject of discussion. Let it go viral. It's not only the things that are not godly that should go viral. Let the godly things, the good characters that they manage, let it go viral. If you find in our society, we don't really celebrate people who are doing well or who just do things right. And that is one of the reasons that the wrong keeps going. So it's just about personal decision for me to do the right thing.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr.
You're muted, Akalechi.
Oh, sorry. Thank you so much. I said thank you, Mrs. Uloma and Williams. I said we have comments and questions in the chat box, and I'm just going to go right through that. But before we do that, just like to announce to you that we are on social media, on Instagram at Early Flight Academy, so you can follow us. I think the information is in the chat box. You can also send us an email, admin@earlyflightacademy.org. That's our official email for partnerships, for questions, comments about our programs and whatnot. So moving on to the comments now. Okay. So some have taken that. I like the part of it's not just about money for the father.
You know what the time is? We are like these are what the day.
Help us mute your mic.
You know what the time is.
Okay. So sorry, I'm tilting my head because my screen is this way. It says, I like the part of it's not just about money, like they've said, for the father, because a lot have neglected their boys. A lot have neglected their boys because they are chasing money. Thank you. Now a question came, says, what happens when a father says his own father didn't have the time to raise him and so finds it difficult to raise his sons now? What help can be given to this dad? So this question is open to Mrs. Uloma, Mr. Williams. Let me read it again. What happens when the father says his own father did not have the time to raise him, so he finds it difficult to raise his own sons now? What help can be given to this dad?
For me, if this dad is asking this question at all, then that is fantastic. Because the truth is that he more often than not, he will not even say a word, and he will not think that he's doing anything wrong. He will just be what he has become, and he will have no apologies. That is really what we find, and I have a situation really, for instance, where I'm very close to these people who grew up in a polygamous home, and there were like 4 wives, and there was all that competition, that comes with getting to get the favor of the man in the house and all that. But more importantly, they called him chief. They didn't call him dad. They didn't call him father. And he was therefore like the head of the chiefdom, right? Now, you can imagine that there was very little time for that person to try and be the kind of father that Williams has been talking about to 24, 28 children from 4 different wives and so on and so forth. So that's a default in itself right there. So a person like that would have that challenge. And a person who grows up in a home like that will also have, just like he also established, similar challenges, because in his own experience, what happens is you appear, when it's time to go back to school with your list, and they give you the list for your school and you go away, and that's the only communication you and your dad have in the year. You do that 3 times a year just before you go for every term or whatever it is. So there's that. What I think is that that's where the balance I was talking about comes in. That's where the mother has to step up her game. Whatever it is that you can add, in those growing days to that child's upbringing. Yes, you have the sensitivity part, but like he said, there are books, there are uncles, there are other people who can be role models where your husband is lacking. And I'm not talking, very far. Sometimes it's his own brother. Sometimes it's, your own brother. Sometimes it's, an older son that you have that is a bit more mature, whatever it is. But find those role models and pair them. Pair the boys with those people so that they can get some more, attention, because time is also important. When you lose the time that you have to be able to shape a child, you actually lose it. The rest is, just pray, that somehow God will recover their child, or recover their man and all that. But when you're able to make that investment at the right time in the person's life, at the developmental stages, from age 7, when they can understand something and anything, you begin to say the right things to them, put them in the right places, add them in the right clubs, put them in the right associations, get them to do things, manage their time so that they are getting all those other things as much as possible. Because what that speaker, that question is telling us is, it's true. There are some fathers that are not ideal. They're not. So like I said, if it's somebody who actually recognizes that he's not ideal, fantastic. I think it's a great move. But most times they don't even realize that. So it's now, the mother and whoever else is around them that can help, just shape that situation.
Awesome. I think you did justice to that. Next comment says, many fathers do not realize they are molding time bombs in their sons. I look forward to more awareness for the fathers. One cannot solve a problem he doesn't know exists. Exactly what you've said, Mrs. Uloma. Being aware is the first step. You congratulate someone who even is aware that he has a need. But like I said, most of them don't even know, right? So yes, yeah. Next comment says, there's so much pressure on parents in raising children. However, adults around children can also step in whenever the opportunity presents itself to model what the right behavior should be. So Mina, awesome contribution. Yes, like I keep saying, it has always taken a village to raise a child. It has always taken a village. Even with our digitalization in the 21st century, that is even why I brought up this platform. If people are building up high fences, everybody's on their phone, maybe we can then push the conversation or create this village online. Since we no longer have close-knit physical communities, maybe we can then have that online as well. So awesome contribution, Ms. Somina. Thank you so much. Jules says, I feel that the constant rape and abuse we have in our society is a reflection of the upbringing of our boys and men. True, we are overprotective of the girl child and devote time and attention on protecting them from pedophiles. Because if young men and boys were taught right to respect the opposite sex and even same sex, a lot of the menace in our society today would have been really minimal. So I agree with Madam Uloma that the importance of bringing up our male kids cannot be overemphasized. Awesome, awesome contribution in your own words, Jules. Yes, exactly. Esther says, I believe we need to instill excellent values in our sons through the parents as well as through institutions such as schools, churches, and raising our boys, which Williams also talked about. He said, influential platforms. So religious organizations should start having these conversations and being emphatic about this need. Role model, this cannot be overemphasized. The Bible says, train up a child. Most times we assume it's just for the parents, but I usually tell adults that we ought to train every child within our circle of influence. Awesome contributions today, awesome comments. I've already taken note of them. Thank you, every single person who was on today's live session. We're about 29 now. Thank you so much. Thank you to our guests. Special thanks to our guests today, Mrs. Uloma and Mr. Williams. You did justice to the conversation. If you learned something or if you enjoyed this conversation, please let me know in the chat box. Just let me know if you enjoyed this conversation. If you really did enjoy this conversation, just let me know in the chat box. And if you're just coming in, please help us mute your mic. And like I've said, this is the final session, final episode for Parents Connect Season 1. If you would like to know when Season 2 will be available or would start, join the community, join our broadcast list on WhatsApp. Yes, thank you, Jules. Jules says she did enjoy today's conversation. Join our community on WhatsApp or send us a message on Instagram at Early Flight Academy. Excuse me. And we will take it up from there and add you to the mailing list. Okay, thank you, every single, I see the comments coming in. Thank you, it was interesting. I enjoyed today's session. Thank you so much to every single person who has been here for coming on every single day. Just a quick, just hang on a minute. Let me see if I'm missing anything. If I'm missing any. Okay, yes, so that's it. Thank you so much. And with this, I say an emotional good night and bye-bye for the time being. Thank you so much. Yes, every single person who learned.
Bye, yes, everyone.
Thanks, very educative, thought-provoking session today. I enjoyed it. Thanks to the speakers. Yes. Thanks to the guests. Thank you.